that print media is, at least in India, we have, yes, globally, yes, the print media has been on the wane, and it has been on the decline. Many newspapers and many magazines have, wound up. Many have gone online. But in India, we have bucked the global trend. And that's thanks to the multiple editions that we have right from the district level. So in media, print media has started acquiring the role of a community newspaper, a community media, very much like you have community newspapers in Australia, in Canada, in New Zealand. So community newspapers, so these papers are increasingly becoming are turning into community newspapers, where the local news is dominating, and of course the national, international and the editorial pages are centralized. Second trend in media, electronic print media, is that you are seeing that the language media is growing by the day. So you have more and more language papers, language channels, language digital platforms which are coming up. So it is important that the language skills, so media students should have multiple language skills. They should be very proud of their linguistic background, So if students are there in Kolkata, if they are good in English, they should be equally good in Bangla also. And if they can pick up a couple of more things, nothing like it. I have always insisted on my students that they should, as a rule, read. Even students from English medium background should read at least one language newspaper. That's very important, because language keeps them rooted to the ground, what is happening at the ground level. It's important that even English medium students read one language newspaper. So it's very important. So this is keeping them. And that is why we also, who are teaching print media, we should also start getting into the language mode. When I was the Director General of Indian Institute of Mass Communication, I'm sure many of you are familiar, at that time we introduced language journalism in a big way. And in our Maharashtra campus, we started the Marathi journalism. In our Kerala campus, we started the Malayalam journalism program. And in Delhi, we upgraded a certificate program into a full-fledged postgraduate diploma program in Urdu journalism. So, language, and today these students are doing exceedingly well. And these courses are, getting a lot of traction, while some other traditional courses are not getting that kind of traction. So this is very important. Now let us shift to the electronic. So this is the emerging trend so far as print is concerned. Print is going to survive, print is alive, print is kicking. But yes, print is no more just print. Print is getting into the integrated newsroom mode. Print is about now convergence media. So you have the print media, which is also having some of the leading media, print media houses are having websites that have the maximum traction, whether it is English or Hindi or any other language. So they are focusing equally on the web, or the internet side of the story. Print media is also, please remember, the biggest investors in digital media are the print media houses. Whether it is HT Media or Times Internet, they are spending huge money not just on the digital but also on new innovative emerging areas like podcasts. They are investing heavily, and that is something that we need to understand. So they are getting into a convergence model where they are talking about an integrated newsroom which will equally cater, of course with its own styles, distinctive style, to print and the digital versions. Some of them are having their own television stations also and radio stations. That's a different, cross media ownership is a different issue altogether. I'm not getting into that, but yes, you will see more and more media houses getting into the print media houses, getting into the digital. Electronic media continues so far as, yes, in terms of increasing visibility, in terms of acceptability, particularly among the youth, it is the digital which is making deep inroads. But the electronic media continues to, if you look at the ad spend, for me ad spend is the basic, because the advertiser knows where the crowd is, where his market is, where his target audience is. So wherever he is spending the money, you can immediately make out. It's like the Satta Bazaar, in cricket, or in, so wherever the Satta is putting money in, you should be, I know this is not a very legitimate kind of terminology, but the fact is that they know where their interests are. So if 41% of ad spend is being done on electronic media, they know that it is still visible. Please remember, more and more channels are being launched by the day. Even now Times now is going to come up with a Hindi channel. That's the latest buzz. Republic has got into, already into Hindi and Bangla. It has already got into. So they know that electronic media is growing and they are spending huge. They are going regional in a big way. So you have more and more channels coming up. So if anybody is saying that the days of electronic media are over, then I am sorry that they are totally out of sync with the ground realities in India. Because electronic media still holds a lot of traction for a lot many people across the country. People still believe that, digital media, yes, it has its presence, but to be on television, to be on EE is the in thing even now. So that's there. Now let me come to the digital revolution that is sweeping the country. The latest, of course, was from Mr. Ambani, who announced now that 5G would be made available at the cheapest possible rates. Now that's going to change. Jio has already changed the media scape, so to say, the media landscape in a big way. And this 5G, once it comes into play, it's going to really revolutionize things. Please remember, today more and more stories on television, in print media, is not about the non-availability of a smartphone, but about the non-availability of bandwidth or broadband. People are climbing up mountains, people are climbing up trees to get that, the signals. They just want to pick up, they want to get that internet connectivity, climbing on trees. So getting a smartphone is no more something impossible. It has become the symbol of the aspirational Indian, the smartphone. So smartphones are there. The issue is the broadband going to be there? Is the connectivity going to be there? That's where companies like Jio are investing huge, the kind of networks that are coming up. Now, I am by no way undermining, the challenge of digital divide. It is there. It is real. A lot of students have dropped out. A lot of students have, lost out on their schools. Post-pandemic, they have lost out on education. That's a reality. But now, those very governments which used to talk about providing free television sets, color TV sets, which used to be the Pole Manifesto, are now talking about laptops and mobile phones and things like that. Today people are donating mobile phones. People have, charity now means providing mobile phones, because it has, I would say that today the basic essentials, the politician, has also understood that it is not just roti, kapda and makan, it is roti, kapda, makan and data. So data is as important as roti, kapda and makan. People consume more data than roti, than food. So that is something that we need to understand. So this media landscape, this mediascape is changing like never before. Now the digital, absolutely no doubt. If you look at the projections just before the pandemic, we were looking at over the next 3 years 38% growth, in digital, as against 3.8% in print. But it is growing. Print is growing. Okay, it's not static. What is static? Static is the English media, whether it is print or electronic. It is by and large remaining static. The language media is growing. The English media is not growing. In fact, couple of years back it was pegged at 0.01% of the total television watching public. 0.01%. And still they say that they represent the nation, and they claim to speak on behalf of the nation, and that's the joke. So who is going to set the agenda? The language media is going to set the agenda. That's something that we need to talk about. Digital. Now, digital has absolutely revolutionized our exposure to media. Today, the biggest thing about digital is not just that, as the Honorable Vice Chancellor put it, it has become the voice of the voiceless. Those stories which were, those untold stories, those stories which were never revealed by the so-called mainstream media, are today being told by the digital media. Okay. So it has democratized media as never before. Today I am not dependent on the so-called mainstream media to put across what I want to say. I mean, I can reach 5,000 people through my Facebook account. I can reach out to many more through the Twitter, through Insta, you name it, I can reach the people. So it has democratized, but not only has it democratized, it has become a consumer's market. It's no more a producer's market. But this consumer's market is different from the consumer's market in the economic terms. When you talk about consumer's market in economic terms, you are talking about, for example, earlier we used to have only Air India or Indian Airlines. But today you have a host of options to choose from Vistara to SpiceJet to Indigo. You can fly whichever airline you want to. But the consumer's market when it comes to media is that the consumer is himself or herself the generator of content. That is the big difference. Here the consumer has become the producer. That is the transformation that has taken place. So from the banned TikTok to now all the chingaris and all the YouTube videos that you see, it is the common man who has become the generator of content and who is being followed, who is being getting audiences from the common people. So it's no more the big media houses which are dictating the narrative, so to say. Today you have the democratization in the real sense of the term, wherein anybody and everybody can be a generator of the content. So this is something that is a big change that has taken place. And and what it has enabled, and that is by far I think the most important thing, that today nobody can impose his or her agenda on me. I today am accessing customized content. Today I can go for customized content. I am no more dependent on the so-called mainstream content. I have to go through the entire thing to get the kind of content I require. No, sorry. Somebody from Bareilly in UP sitting in Boston, he doesn't have to read all the newspapers in India or UP to reach wherever, to get information about his district, he can straight away go to any YouTuber, any digital platform, uploaded from Bareilly, and get news about his own city. He is not dependent. Otherwise, will any US paper, or for that matter any national paper, be reporting what is happening on a day-to-day basis in Bareilly? No. Now the same holds true for Tiruchirappalli or Banaras or Bundelkhand or anybody, any part of the country for that, or Northeast for that matter. So I am no more dependent on, the so-called mainstream media. I have got customized content, whatever I need. So it is not for, content is not being produced for all. Content is being produced specifically for you, and that is where artificial intelligence is playing a key role in ensuring that every reader, every viewer gets the content that he or she wants. That is what AI is enabling. Now that is the big emerging trend that is happening. Now I also want to flag a couple of more trends before I come to the next topic, and that is biggest trend, infodemic, which has been a matter of great concern both at the global and the local level. The overdose of information, due to which the common citizen is unable to distinguish between the wheat and the chaff. He or she wants to know what is reliable, trustworthy news. So that means the editorial process, the importance of filtration, the importance of fact checking, the importance of truth, accuracy, objectivity, the fundamental principles of journalism is back in action. And that is why people are switching back to print media. I am not giving a clean chit to print media. They have done their, their crimes also. They cannot be absolved of those crimes. But the fact is that of all the current media platforms that are prevalent today, the most credible one continues to remain the printed word. Because if there is a television channel and if you are running a ticker, you can always remove it. A website can always withdraw whatever content it has put. But for a newspaper to withdraw is something, it hits its credibility like. So there is a lot of filtration which goes into it, a lot of checking, fact checking, sourcing. So these are the fundamentals. So fundamentals of journalism are back. People are looking for platforms which are reliable, which are trustworthy. Second trend that emerging trends in, because let us not just, when we talk about trends, generally the trend is to talk about technological trends. But I also want to talk about the content trend, because at the end of the day, I continue to believe that irrespective of technology, we will continue to have the content as the king, queen, prince, princess. The content will always be the most important thing. Can you grab the eyeball of the viewer within split seconds? Because the attention spans have gone down like never before. And it is only the content that can grab the attention, grab the eyeballs of the viewer. Now, content, one is the, as I said, the editorial aspect. People have realized the importance of filtration. Number two, which is, I would say, is that people today, the biggest trend that I see is that media has started focusing on health and education like never before. Today, health is there in every page, right from the front page to the last page. It's only health, health facilities, medicines, availability of oxygen, availability of infrastructure, availability of ICUs, ventilators. It's about health, the condition of primary health centers, You know, these are the things that are being widely discussed. Perhaps never before has health been the focus of media reportage. So we used to say that health coverage used to be in single digit, and today it is more than 60% of the newspapers or television. You see that you have discussions on health, on black fungus, white fungus, yellow fungus, you name it. You have discussions, which are there. Second, education. With the advent of online education, I could never imagine, in the last so many years, that regarding the CBSE 12th board results, the Prime Minister leads the meeting. This was unthinkable. Such a mundane thing such as the 12th CBSE results, the decision is taken at the highest level. So this means that education, of course the national education policy has come in between. There is a proposal to have a 6% budget allocation. The Ministry of Human Resource Development has been renamed as the Education Ministry, like it used to be at the time of independence. But what is interesting is that today people are concerned. There are write-ups, there are articles on digital divide, on online education, on the future of children, what happens to them. Education perhaps never got this much of coverage, So education is trending. Health is trending. Investigative journalism is back with a vengeance. We thought that it's dead and gone. I really used to go to old newspapers, old Indian Express editions, to tell my students that this used to be investigative reporting. But today I have to pick up the latest copies of, say, the Dainik Bhaskar or, some language paper which has bothered to go into the cremation grounds, collect data from there, match it with government figures, so much so that today half a dozen state governments have revised their death figures in the COVID scenario only because of these investigative reports which have been brought by the, brought out by the media. And so investigative reporting is back. Health, the ground reporting is back. Today you see senior most journalists who are traveling to the rural areas. They are going to the rural areas. They are trying to find out what happened after the reverse migration. What is the fate of primary health care centers? What is happening to the Anganwadi workers? What has happened to the midday meal scheme? What has happened to the agrarian labor? How is the Mahatma Gandhi Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme working? People are going back to the villages, looking at of course, there has been an economic shift too. Today, economically also, you see a lot of FMCGs moving towards the rural areas. So obviously there is an ad push also. That cannot be ignored. But the fact is that we are going into ground reporting in a big way. This is again a major trend that I see in media. Okay, I think that I will not be able to cover the entire thing if I keep continuing because each subject requires a couple of hours. Let me come straight to the challenges. Infodemic, I have already mentioned, is one of the biggest challenges. So the credibility of news, the importance of credibility of news, that is there. So this is a big challenge. And one of the factors, and I make it a point to address every FDP on this, that, we have been liberally using the term citizen journalism like anything. This is a term we have imported from the West. Please remember that we don't have citizen doctors. We don't have citizen engineers. Everybody and anybody cannot be treating patients. Everybody and anybody cannot be building bridges and flyovers and skyscrapers. Right? So, how is it that everybody and anybody can become a journalist? They can be content creators. They can be citizen communicators. But they cannot be journalists. Journalism as a profession needs professional benchmarking. And that's why you and I are here. We are running media institutions. We are running media departments to groom journalists. The way medical colleges are grooming doctors, the way dental colleges are grooming dentists, the way engineering colleges are grooming engineers, we are grooming journalists. So not everybody and anybody and everybody can become a journalist. Journalism is about specific skill sets. Journalism is not just because anybody can write a few words in English, Hindi, Tamil, Malayalam, he can become a journalist. Anybody can use a smartphone, he becomes a journalist. No, journalism is about knowing the Constitution of India. Journalism is about understanding media ethics. Journalism is about understanding the global scenario. Journalism is about being socially sensitive. Journalism is about language skills. So these are things that we need to understand. So journalism is something that we train people in. So anybody and everybody cannot be a journalist the way anybody and everybody cannot be a doctor or an engineer. You can be a content creator, you can be a tech citizen, you can be a content creator. But you cannot be everybody cannot be a journalist. For that you need a diploma, you need a degree, you need a certificate. You need to undergo certain skill sets. That's very important. So that benchmarking education has to be there. Not everybody and anybody should be allowed to run a, fly-by-the-night operator should not be allowed to run a teaching shop. There should be certain benchmarking, like you have the Medical Council of India giving license for a medical college, a Bar Council of India giving license to a law college. Similarly, we should have an institution, a Media Education Council, which should be, recognizing media schools. There has to be some basic infrastructure. I am not at all for uniformity of syllabus, but I am strongly in favor of standardization of curriculum. There has to be some basic things which need to be taught in media schools across the country. There have to be certain basic infrastructures that have to be in place, otherwise it is the student who gets cheated, in the name of media, because the glamour of television attracts a lot of youngsters into media, and they should not be cheated by small time shops, who are wanting to make a big kill out of this quest for glamour. Okay. Now, so challenge is fact checking. Challenge is that right from a 5-year-old to a 95-year-old is getting exposed to media. The challenge is to have media literacy on a huge scale. We need a national media literacy mission. We need to teach everybody right from school curriculum. It has to be something like sex education, like good touch and bad touch. You have to teach them that they do recognize cyberbullying, they do recognize pornography, they do recognize the dark net, they don't get blackmailed to, they don't get addicted to. That is media literacy that has to be imparted. There has to be a discipline, a media discipline that has to be there. And that is something, these are things that we need to have in a big way. That is the biggest challenge. The challenge is, as I said, digital divide. Smartphones are there, internet connectivity, again a big issue that needs to be resolved. Challenge is that I am ready to pay 400 rupees to buy a packet of popcorn in a cinema house, but not ready to pay more than 3 rupees for a newspaper which costs 30 rupees to produce. And then I have the audacity to complain that the newspaper is not independent, the newspaper is biased, the newspaper is partial. Now if somebody else is paying 27 rupees, whether it be a political party or a corporate house, obviously they are going to call the shots, not somebody who pays 3 rupees. Why should a media house talk about somebody who is paying just 10% of so only 10% of your interest will be taken care of. 90% interest they will be taking care of others who are putting in the money. We can have independent media only if we are ready to pay for it. We can pay 200 rupees for a Netflix connection on our smartphones, but not 20 rupees for a newspaper. We are not ready to, we need to extend our helping hand or support to independent media platforms. Only then should you expect that they will give independent views. Otherwise, don't crib if you are getting a lot of sponsored stuff. The paid news, the sweat equities, all these will continue. So long as you are not paying, so long as somebody else is paying. Whoever is putting in the money, he will take it with interest. So that is something that you need to understand. That's the biggest challenge. Okay, now coming to the importance of research. Please remind me, Rajesh ji, whenever I am exceeding the time limit, because I am trying to put it in different segments so that I can address the whole issue. Now, the third aspect is importance of research. Well, I always used to say that, that like you divide history into two parts, before Christ and Anno Domini, BC and AD. I used to say that media has to be divided into two parts, BG and AG, before Google and after Google. Now, before Google, we used to go to the libraries. I remember as a young reporter, I used to go to the American Central Library, the British Council Library, spend hours there reading a lot of stuff from NYT to Washington Post to, to the Times London, and go into the archives, see the library, go deep into the issues. But today, it's just a click away, a finger touch away, information is there. So research has been replaced by Google search. But how credible is it? That is the big issue. We tend to do, even in Google search, we need to train journalists in doing Google search. Because search engine optimizations have ensured that again it is the market, the economics that decide what results come at the top. It is SEOs which decide that what you get to see. The original research may be somewhere deep down on some academic website in the 34th page. But do you have the time and patience to go up to the 34th page of the search? More than 1 or 2 pages you won't go, and whatever you get it, you pick it up and you run it. Do you have the patience? No. Then in the absence of that patience, it's important that we teach journalists how to use Google. I am not at all against Google. Many people should know that Wiki is purely user-generated content. There is no reliability feature in that. How do you blindly trust Wiki? Anybody and everybody can edit it. Who is going to ensure the quality? So, these are things that we need to teach our youngsters. Even if you are using Google, how to use Google and get the best results from Google. How to get authentic things from Google. That is something we need to really go deep into. Importance of research, in the West, I remember vividly, whenever I used to go through any transnational copy, and this is just an example, about say an India-Pak issue, India-Pakistan issue. Now, I remember that every time a transnational copy in its last paragraph will say that India and Pakistan were created following, in 1947, they were partitioned following the British exit from the Indian subcontinent. Both the countries have been at loggerheads over issues like Kashmir and others, and they have fought 3 wars. Now this is called backgrounding. This backgrounding happens because there is a dedicated research team in these media organizations. In Indian media, we hardly do any backgrounding. And because we think that everybody knows everything. Why are we taking the readers for granted? Why are we thinking that they know about the issue? I will give you this classic example which I have been citing even in classrooms. And that is that, you know, there is a contentious issue between India and Pakistan called Bagli Har. Or for example, let us say Indus Water Treaty. So we will have a report that secretary level talks to resume between India and Pakistan on Indus Water Treaty. And then we will mention that the dates have been scheduled. So and so is going to represent India, so and so is going to represent Pakistan. This is a major thaw after the standoff between the two countries. And that is the end of the report. Now, where on earth is Bagli Har? What is this Indus Treaty all about? I think that we ought to explain it to the new reader. Every day a new reader is coming. He or she is not necessarily somebody who has been reading newspaper for 25 years. He or she ought to be told about the background. Without telling about the background, if you are going to just tell them the story, now where is it coming? So that is where the importance of research is. It is the importance of research. Today you need to have research units in every media house, because something big like data journalism has come into play, and that is redefining journalism like never before. Now, how to interpret data? Now that is something that a research-oriented journalist alone can do. Right to information. How to effectively use right to information as a powerful journalistic tool is something only a good researcher can do. So you need to have more researchers in the media. We need to develop a research bent of mind in media. I think I look at it both as a challenge and I look at it as an opportunity. We need to go deep into issues. Today, research for me is not just going deep into books, reading books, scanning the archives. Research is also going to the ground, going back to the ground and finding out the truth, ferreting out the truth from the ground. Go there, go to the crematoriums, go to the burial grounds, take out statistics, go to the hospitals, go to the mortuaries, take out statistics, go to the primary health centers, the hospitals, the schools, the colleges, the universities. University reporting should not be about teachers' protest and student agitations. It is about the quality of teaching, the student-teacher ratio, the classes taken, the classes not taken, the absenteeism among teachers. Are these issues being discussed in media? No, because that calls for legwork, that calls for spade work. We are not ready to go to the ground. We are comfortable in our air-conditioned cocoons. We need to come out of our cocoons. We need to come out of our comfort zones. A cocoon is a place where we love to listen to our voices. We are not ready to listen to other alternative voices. And that is what we have to teach our children. And that is possible only through research. You need to have anthropological research. You need to have journalists who will go deep, who will stay there with the inhabitants, and then they will report, not based on some statement by some activists. I keep saying that we don't need activists in journalism, we need factivists in journalism. We need people who can come out with facts. That's important. Learning new things in media. Coming to the fourth and final aspect, learning new things in media. You know the skill deficit gap? Couple of years back, FICCI KPMG brought out a figure which said that we require about 16,000 skilled hands in animation, visual effects, gaming and comics. This is also media. Media is not just news media. How can we media teachers say that cinema is not part of us? It's an integral part of mass communication. OTT platforms. Mojo has come in a big way. Mobile journalism. Today the Jagannath Yatra is taking place in Puri. Amid all the COVID protocols, you need a certificate of vaccination to enter the premises. You need a COVID negative certificate to enter the premises. But journalists have found a way out. They are sending drones. Drone journalism. And these drones are today being used in containment zones, in COVID hotspots. They were hovering around cremation grounds, burial grounds. They were going to remote localities where it was difficult to reach, inaccessible areas. And that is where technology has to come into place. Technology plays a major role. We need to have, there's a huge market for animation. And Indians are more serving as backroom boys for Western studios. We need skilled hands who can ensure that when it comes to animation, India becomes the ultimate hub and destination. We have the potential. We have some of the most creative people around. Some of the most innovative people around. We need to groom them. AI, as I've already discussed, they are being used in a huge way in the West. Reuters, Bloomberg, they are using Cyborg. Yes, there are also layoffs happening because of the artificial intelligence. But there are also other examples, like the New York Times, which comes with your weekend edition. It's a customized one, but it is not just using AI, it's a combination of AI and manual. Human, involvement. So we need that to provide customized content, to reach out to the maximum number of people, to give them alternative options. We need to use AI. So can we learn these new things, yet ensure that we don't groom technical people, but we groom media persons? That confusion sometimes happens. We sometimes confuse because we are teaching so much of technology that we forget that we are grooming journalists. We are not grooming technical persons. We are not grooming technocrats. That we should never forget. So the content has to be there. The constitution has to be there. The media ethics has to be there. These are things that we need to ensure that we provide the global level, global standard journalism education, but at the same time they have strong roots in ethics, in constitutional provisions. They are aware of the rights and responsibilities of the citizens. They are not superficial intellectuals that we create. That is important. There are classroom discussions animated on the topics of the day. These are things which cannot be sacrificed for technology. That also we need to understand. Friends, when we learn new things, we generally tend to forget old things. But that is something that we should not. Because please remember, the infodemic has ensured that today people are once again looking for truth, accuracy and objectivity in media. And that they are looking for that in media means that they are looking for the fundamental principles of media, which we cannot compromise with for any amount of technology. These are things that we should keep in mind. And of course, one can go on and on. There are so many issues which we have to discuss. There are so many, but maybe for some other day. I hope that maybe you have planned for 5-10 minutes of some interaction also. I don't know how you have planned it, Professor Rajesh Sasodia, but for the time being, wishing all the best to all the participants for the next couple of days, for a wonderful deliberations that I'm sure will bear some fruitful results, fruitful outcomes, which can then be circulated to media schools across the country on very important aspects. My compliments once again to Team Amity, and it was a wonderful conversation we have had. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I look forward to more interactions in the future, and if possible in person at Amity, Kolkata. Thank you so much. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, thank you.